A wedding is one of life's most significant moments, marking a new beginning for a couple. Today, my husband and I were at my sister-in-law's wedding, even though I wasn't particularly eager to attend. Nevertheless, I went. As the reception continued and course after course was served, I found myself with a child's needle in front of me while everyone else enjoyed sophisticated French cuisine. I was inquiring about the mix-up when my mother-in-law approached me with a sly grin. "Are you enjoying the wedding?" she asked, glancing down at my plate. Before I could answer, my husband spoke up. "My name is Olivia. I'm 32 and run my own clothing company. My husband William is 34. We married 3 years ago after meeting at a department store where he worked as a security guard. Among the older guards, he stood out with his youth and athletic build. I was 27 at the time, and he was 29. After marriage, I discovered he was a former firefighter who had to retire early due to a lung injury. We met every time I pitched my products at the store, and he eventually asked me out to dinner. I was single at the time, and one thing led to another until we were married 2 years later. Life with my husband is fulfilling. We rarely argue, though our busy work schedules mean little time together. My only complaint is the occasional difficulty with his family, particularly his older sister Sarah, who is 35. Our story with Sarah began on a rare day off we both managed to secure. "Let's go shopping since we have the day off together," my husband suggested. "That sounds perfect. I need new shoes anyway." Our busy schedules rarely allow simultaneous days off, so it was a special opportunity. Just as we were ready to start our day, the doorbell rang at 7 a.m. My husband grumbled as he went to answer it. To our surprise, it was Sarah, standing at the door with a suitcase. "Sarah, what are you doing here at this hour?" we asked, perplexed. With a casual air, she said, "I need a place to stay for a while. I'm getting married soon, and the venue is near your home. It's easier for me to manage the wedding preparations from here." She started to walk in as if she had every right. "Wait a minute," I objected. "We were about to go out. It's our day off." Sarah's face lit up. "Oh, shopping? I want to come too." My husband and I exchanged a surprised look. Are you planning to join us?" I asked cautiously. "Why not? Is there a problem?" She shot back, her tone defiant. My husband and I were taken aback by her audacity. Then she added, "I want to look at baby things." "I need to make sure I'm prepared for the baby," Sarah announced confidently as she took charge, while we stood frozen at the entrance. "Come on, let's get ready and leave by 9 a.m., she instructed. "How are we going?" My husband's face darkened at her self-centered approach. I rarely saw him look so disturbed, but he had told me they never got along well as children, constantly arguing. "Is there any chance you can leave?" I asked, hoping she would understand we wanted to spend our rare day off alone. Sarah's gaze turned cold as she retorted, "You want to exclude me? You're from a single mother family, right?" "Yes, but what does that have to do with anything?" I responded. "Figures. I've known some people from single mother families and they lack empathy. They look down on others," she sneered. The irony of her statement struck me as she looked down on me while claiming my background made me judgmental. Her narrow-minded view infuriated me. That's prejudice. I'm not like that. And even William is uncomfortable. I glanced at my husband, who was glaring at his sister. "What's wrong, William? Anything to say to your sister?" She taunted. "Yes, please just go home," he said firmly. "Fine, but don't come crying to me later, especially you, Olivia," she said as she left. "Thanks for the warning," I replied nonchalantly. With Sarah gone, we had breakfast and went to the nearby mall. However, our luck hadn't changed. After shopping, we rested on a bench when we unexpectedly ran into Sarah again. "Look who it is, the same two," she said with a smirk. "Guess we ended up in the same place," my husband muttered. Then we heard a familiar voice calling Sarah's name. It was my mother-in-law. "Sarah, let's check out those luxury bags over there," she said as they approached us. "William and Olivia, you too," she said, noticing us. My husband sighed, sounding worn out. I felt the same way. Dealing with Sarah was challenging enough, but my mother-in-law only made things worse. Her attitude was unpleasant, and she quickly displayed it. "Is that a bag from Infinity Tread Shoes?" she asked, pointing at the bag my husband was holding. "Yes, it is," he replied. Mother and daughter exchanged knowing glances and laughed. Since when do you wear such cheap shoes? They teased, gesturing at their matching luxury brand shoes. Choosing the wrong partner brings misfortune, they added with contemptuous looks directed mostly at me. It was clear I was the main target of their disdain. You talking about me? I challenged. I blurted out impulsively, how much do you earn? My sister-in-law smirked and replied, I wondered if we're dodging the question. She then proceeded to hurl insults at me. My husband intervened, saying, enough, Mom. Your constant boasting about wealth is embarrassing and annoying. His anger was palpable. I had never seen him so furious. Despite his authoritative voice, it seemed to have no effect on them. William, you were born into a wealthy family. Are you okay with being with this uneducated poor woman? My mother-in-law sneered. Education doesn't matter much these days, and Olivia is, my husband, prioritizing defending me over his family, cut her off. His support filled me with happiness and strengthened my trust in him. But before he could finish, they interrupted him. That's not true. Dad got his job at a major company because of his education. He's even the vice president now and will soon be president. William, you graduated from a famous university, and yet you're with a woman like this. You've really fallen, my sister-in-law retorted. They treated me as an outsider, steering the conversation their way despite my husband's rebuttal. They showed no remorse, and their nature seemed utterly rotten. How much do you earn, by the way? I attempted to ask. But before I could finish, my sister-in-law cut in, mocking, wait, $120 a month. She laughed and continued, sorry, I should have been more considerate. That must be tough, especially for a dropout. Hey, enough. My husband tried to interject, but my sister-in-law placed a hand on his shoulder and said, well, good luck. My husband was visibly angry, and I felt a surge of hatred inside me. But they seemed oblivious to our feelings, continuing the conversation at their own pace. Oh, you both better attend the wedding. Mom's preparing a grand event. My mother-in-law insisted. Yes, we're sparing no expense for our darling daughter's wedding. You are coming, right, Olivia? The pressure from my mother-in-law felt suffocating, as if I couldn't say no. After all, my husband being family would obviously attend. I suppose it's fine if he's there. I reluctantly agreed to attend, knowing I would never go without my husband's presence. The day of my sister-in-law's wedding arrived, and I finished my accumulated work before finding a new dress with my husband for the occasion. As we arrived at the venue, the opulence was undeniable. The luxurious hotel, expansive ballroom, extravagant decorations, and the enormous wedding cake all spoke of lavishness. You both made it. My mother-in-law greeted us upon arrival. Not that I wanted to be here, my husband remarked, revealing a rare hint of weariness as he faced his mother. This wedding cost $100,000, with 500 guests and a special meal prepared by a top chef. Only we could pull off something like this. Her arrogance was evident as she looked down on everyone around her, though most passers-by offered only polite smiles and nods. Her constant need to flaunt her status appalled me. My husband's words echoed my thoughts. Why did he spend this much on our wedding? Our wedding had been modest, costing $20,000 and attended only by relatives and close friends. But I was content with it. Nevertheless, there was a stark disparity in the way she treated her own son compared to her daughter. What are you saying? Sarah's fiancé, Alex, will soon work directly under Dad, she said dismissively. Once Dad becomes president, Alex will be groomed for a key role in the company. It's only right that we give him a proper welcome. My mother-in-law laughed proudly. As we spoke, my father-in-law joined us. Emily, it's almost time for Sarah and Alex's entrance. Aren't you going to take pictures from the front row? He seemed intent on ending our conversation, and was just as dismissive as my mother-in-law. Olivia, it's been a while. You should consider yourself honored to be invited to such an extravagant wedding. You'll probably never experience anything like this again, he said calmly, though his words dripped with condescension. My husband couldn't hold back his frustration. Why do you have to phrase it that way, Dad? My father-in-law responded with a cold expression. Don't get me wrong. I never approved of your marriage. You remember the conditions I set. My husband glanced at me briefly before turning away, revealing information I had never known. The fact that our marriage had never been approved by his father was new to me. Facing away from me, my husband spoke with a subdued voice. Graduate from a prestigious university, earn over $100,000 a year. That's right, his father interrupted. And Olivia, He shot me a quick glance before focusing back on my husband. Olivia may not have graduated, but she's successful and earning her own living. My husband was cut off by my mother-in-law shouting loudly, "Daniel, look. Sarah has finished changing into her second dress." Her outburst was disruptive, and if it weren't for the occasion, it would have certainly drawn complaints. Others glanced at her, forcing smiles as my father-in-law followed his wife's call and said, "We'll discuss this later," before leaving the conversation. My husband muttered, "Olivia is much more remarkable than you think, Dad," as he watched his father walk away. His words comforted me, knowing he was on my side. As the bride and groom made their entrance, the hall erupted in applause, and the celebration began. My sister-in-law announced, "We have a special course prepared by a top chef today. Please enjoy." The waitstaff began serving the food, but soon I noticed my mother-in-law arguing with a server nearby. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "Yes, just do it," she insisted, and the server walked away, looking uneasy. It became clear that she was orchestrating a prank on me. With a large number of guests, serving took time. When my meal finally arrived, I was taken aback to find a children's meal in front of me. I immediately addressed the server. "Excuse me, but there must be a mistake," I asked calmly, though I thought the error was strange. The server looked uncomfortable, the same one who had spoken with my mother-in-law earlier. "Can you replace it, please?" I added as he hesitated to respond. "This isn't a mistake," he finally said. "I was instructed to serve you the kids' meal," the server responded to my surprise, prompting my husband to join the conversation. "What's wrong, Olivia? Why a kids' meal?" He too was taken aback by the sight of my meal. "Why is my meal different from everyone else's?" he added, his tone reflecting his surprise. The situation was more embarrassing than shocking, and people around us began to stare. "Why do you have a kids' meal?" my husband asked, puzzled. "I don't know either," I replied, feeling flustered. Then my mother-in-law approached, laughing. "How is your meal perfect for a dropout from a single-parent home, right? If you don't like it, you can leave." Her words were cutting, and I felt my patience wearing thin. I had been holding back because I didn't want to disrupt someone else's wedding. But if the orchestrator of the event was causing the disturbance, there was no need for me to continue holding back. Just as I was contemplating this, my husband spoke up first. "What are you doing? Aren't you embarrassed by this childish behavior?" His tone remained calm, but anger simmered beneath the surface. His eyes held no hint of amusement. Instead, they bore a cold expression, as if he were looking down on an inferior creature. "What childishness? What are you talking about?" My mother-in-law feigned ignorance, but my husband didn't let her off the hook. "Exactly. Why serve a kid's menu to an adult? It's obvious Olivia wouldn't order such a thing," he retorted, his frustration evident. My mother-in-law's face flushed with anger. "Marrying a poor woman, and you dare to talk back to us. You've become a mere commoner since you married her, straying from our intended path." She spat, her words dripping with disdain. Though the notion that wealthy people are superior exists everywhere, my mother-in-law seemed to take it to another level. Interrupting their conversation, I spoke coldly to her. "It's true, I did drop out. That's because my parents passed away before I could finish middle school. But now, I'm the president of a company." "President? I bet that's nothing significant," I said, addressing her unwavering momentum. Seeing her relentless attitude, I sighed. I didn't want to stoop to her level, but her behavior was becoming increasingly childish. I muttered meaningfully, prompting a curious and slightly uneasy look from my mother-in-law. "What exactly do you do?" she asked, her tone laden with arrogance as she assumed a superior stance. It was infuriating to witness her attitude. "Daniel's company is Solar Burst Innovations, right?" I asked, knowing the answer. "Yes, that's right. And he'll be the next president," she confirmed, a touch of pride in her voice. "Is that so? By the way, the current president, Morgan, is a major client of my company. The socks distributed in his company each month are commissioned directly to my company by Morgan himself," I revealed. My mother-in-law was momentarily stunned into silence. The socks I referred to were renowned for their comfort, even after extended wear, developed by my company. Originally designed for t-shirts, the technology had expanded to encompass all clothing types. Morgan personally endorsed our socks and provided them to his entire company, solidifying a close professional relationship with him. As a result, while you may boast about your husband becoming the next president, if I inform Morgan about your behavior, that dream may never become a reality. I continued. Her face paled as she grasped the implications, her confidence evaporating. You know him, the president of my husband's company, she stammered. Indeed. Did you know Morgan didn't even finish high school? He fits the profile of the uneducated you so despise. Shall I relay your thoughts on education directly to him? I asked pointedly. Please no. Don't do that, she pleaded, her arrogance completely crumbling as she realized her power was in jeopardy. My father-in-law rushed over, his expression tense. I repeated the same threat to him. Daniel, I'll advise Morgan against making you the president. Please don't do that. If that happens, we'll struggle financially, he begged, his pride forgotten. I remained calm as I confronted both of them, my resolve unshaken. Around us, the crowd began to murmur, sensing the tension at our table. My sister-in-law approached, confused by the scene. What's all this fuss about? I answered bluntly, Sarah, I make over $120K a year. My business is stable. I didn't get a chance to tell you the other day because you interrupted our conversation. Her face twisted in shock, her confidence visibly faltering. After standing up to my in-laws, they seemed to be left hollowed out by my revelations. So everything we've done to you, yes, was nothing but harassment, I cut in, and it threatens Daniel's position. As I declared this, my mother-in-law's demeanor shifted dramatically. She dropped to the floor, clasping her hands in desperation. I'm sorry, please forgive me. I was taken aback by her swift submission but felt no inclination to forgive them. No, I won't. You've judged and insulted people based on appearances. You must face the consequences. We've nearly exhausted our savings on this wedding. If I don't become president and get a higher salary, we'll struggle financially, my father-in-law added, joining his wife on the floor. My sister-in-law looked on with a helpless expression. Dad, you're out of money. Yes, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. I spent all my resources on this wedding as a gift to the two of you. What about our honeymoon funds and Alex's promotion? Her voice quivered, but she was only concerned about her own deteriorating situation. She hated being knocked down from her pedestal and constantly relied on others instead of trying to find solutions on her own. Wait, you bragged about your wealth and were planning to fund your honeymoon with your parents' money? How embarrassing, I retorted. What did you say? My sister-in-law shot back, but she had no argument. You all claim to be wealthy, yet you rely on others and boast about your status. Real wealthy people and celebrities don't flaunt their wealth, I declared. You're nothing but pretenders. Know your place. My harsh words left them deflated, and my husband murmured his admiration. The wedding could no longer proceed as planned, so we left the event early. Later, I explained the situation to Morgan. So it wouldn't be in your best interest if Daniel became president, right? Exactly, I confirmed. Don't worry, I won't forgive Daniel for insulting you, nor will I promote him. Maybe I should transfer him to an overseas branch instead. Morgan laughed as he spoke. A week later, my father-in-law rushed to us, pleading, please convince Morgan to cancel the overseas transfer. His desperation was evident. Morgan was serious about transferring him to another branch, and when I heard it was Brazil, I almost burst into laughter. In the end, Morgan did not reverse the transfer, and my father-in-law, unwilling to go to Brazil, resigned from the company. Additionally, my sister-in-law's fiancé found himself caught up in the chaos. First, the wedding was a disaster, then the promised position at the company fell through. He had relocated from Italy to America for the wedding, only to be embroiled in this absurd drama. As a result, my sister-in-law's wedding was called off, leaving her in great shock and even requiring hospitalization. My mother-in-law, affected by her husband's downfall and her daughter's mental breakdown, lost all her hair and now appeared aged beyond her years. As my husband observed, the lives of these three people who had freely insulted others lost their luster in an instant, much like a diamond revealed to be nothing more than a lump of carbon. The supposed opulence of my in-laws was merely a facade. Just as life can hinge on a single event that influences the future, this moment profoundly affected them. As for me, I used my savings to prepare for building my dream home with my husband. While my in-laws' lives became increasingly difficult, my business thrived, generating growing profits. Additionally, with the calmness returning to our lives, I discovered I was pregnant. With financial stability and a growing family, we may seem like celebrities to my in-laws now. But I vow to remain humble and live happily with my husband and our future child, never succumbing to arrogance.